On today's DNVR Broncos podcast, we are breaking down the Broncos running back room. We've already talked about who will be the starter, J.K. Dobbins or RJ Harvey, but what will their numbers be like? ESPN has put out projections, and we're going to dive into them. Plus, we're going to break down the Broncos-Eagles Week 5 matchup. How can the Broncos pull off the upset? It all starts now. Running back room, rejuvenated running back room, I should say. We're going to break it down on the DNVR Broncos podcast, live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your local Front Range Toyota stores. And we are the DNVR Broncos podcast. Ryan Koenigsberg to my left, Henry Chisholm to my right. You hear behind the camera, and as always, Ryan is rocking CU, Henry is rocking Montana, and you hear, what are you rocking?
You're rocking the Rockies?
Yeah, and you hear and I rocking the Rockies. Let's go, baby.
Wow.
We had the meeting this morning, and Dre got in there, sat down, stared at me for like 7 seconds, and then said, "So you're a big fan of Antonym?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Oh, you were just trying to figure out how to read the upside down Montana."
No rivals. Is that?
That's Ben DiNucci's.
Oh, that's the hat brand.
Yep.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was Montana's slogan there.
No, famously do have a rival.
Famously.
Famously.
you do.
Yes.
That would actually be kind of a sick slogan to disrespect your rival.
It would.
It
Like
would
if you're
be.
George or Bama and you're just like, yeah, no
We
rivals.
don't have rivals.
Yeah.
It's like George is like, what about us? And like all those guys.
Auburn, yeah.
Yeah.
We just made up a really cool little... Yeah, because it reminds me of when Frank Clark got to the Broncos. Of course, his great Broncos tenure, Frank Clark. When he got here, he was asked about the Broncos-Chiefs rivalry, and he said, well, Broncos haven't beaten the Chiefs in 13 games now, or whatever it was at that point. So yeah, they're not a rival. That's the message you would be sending to other teams. Is like, no, you're not in our class. You're not our rival.
That's what I was thinking, because like people think that CSU is CU's rival, but I don't think they've won a game against us since the Obama administration.
Yeah,
Wow.
I knew you were going to turn this into a CSU thing at some point.
So I
Yeah.
guess no rivals is our thing.
But that's why. So at the time, I started covering Colorado in 2019. And at that point, like the history was like a little bit muddy because it was like a couple years before they'd won, and it was a little bit more back and forth. And that's when everybody's saying like, why would CU play CSU? Only thing that can happen is bad. But now things are back to where they should be, probably, where it's like CU just kind of beats up on them every year. And so to me, it's back to like, yeah, they should play every year. Colorado should get their win. CSU, like,
Just in time for there to be no games for like the next 7 years.
Exactly. And I'm finally disappointed by that.
I gotta just stop this blasphemy going on right now and tell you
You should look up the definition of blasphemy.
about how you can get CSU and CU content, the best content, over at thednvr.com for the Rams, for the Buffs, for the Rockies, for the Nuggets, for the Avs, both of those teams going into the draft and free agency. And then, of course, for your Denver Broncos. We got our offer for you to become a diehard. We're cutting it in over half, from $79.99 annual fee to $36 for an intro offer. You can get that by going to thednvr.com/intro. That's going to get you coverage for an entire season. Plus, it's going to get you a free shirt of your choice, plus all the other offers that come with being a diehard, including discounts on merch, discounts on events, discounts at the bar, discounts everywhere. So become a diehard, because that's going to get you coverage for this entire Broncos season. You're going to get training camp. You're going to get preseason. You're going to get the entire season. Then you're going to get the draft covers. Then you're going to get the draft. Then you're going to get next offseason. So we love it if you became a diehard. And just like, what was it, Suff Wolf did yesterday? Said they let us know when they... Wolf Stark. They let us know when they became a diehard. So make sure to drop that in the Toyota chat when you become a diehard. We really would appreciate that.
In honor of the $36 sale, best 36 in Broncos history.
Kayvon Webster was the first thing that came to my mind.
By AV, which has been a theme the last couple days.
Yeah, I'm tired of it.
Yeah, the number 4. Number 4.
Number 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Need some other hints.
Are any of these people during my lifetime?
It's a good place to start.
I No.
Okay.
Nope. No.
Yeah.
Just tell
Bill
us.
Thompson was the greatest ever.
Okay.
Hard hitting safety, of course. At
Billy
least I
Two
believe
Shoes
he wasn't a
Thompson.
corner, was he?
Who is
yeah,
36
Two Shoes
this
Thompson.
year?
Famously wore two shoes. Yeah. Who was? Oh, actually, the guy who
Not every NFL player has worn 2 shoes.
I'll give you-
So that is a little distinction.
Quentin Newsome wore 36 last year, but there is a current running back who used to wear 36.
Tyler Bidet.
Yeah, used to wear
Yep,
36.
used
And then,
to.
of course, Mark Haynes, Jim Leonard.
Yeah.
Shout out, guys.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Jim Leonard. The
Still around.
Broncos, he got a promotion this offseason. And guys, we got the news of training camp. We got the schedule today. There's going to be 13 practices open to fans starting on July 25th. That is 1 month and 1 day from now. Fans will be able to attend training camp. Broncos are going to have a couple practices before then. So players report to training camp on July 22nd. That's when the veterans go. Then the 23rd and 24th, it's not yet official, but likely going to be ramp-up practices. We will be there. So fans won't be there. We'll be there. We'll be doing shows right after. And then training camp starts July 25th. And that is going to be awesome. 800 fans are going to be in attendance. So despite construction, the Broncos are making it so that they can continue their streak of having fans at every training camp practice for forever now. But only 800 fans. Tickets go on sale tomorrow at 10 a.m. So our show's at 11 a.m. So tomorrow at 10 a.m., make sure to get your tickets. And they're free. So make sure to secure them tomorrow.
Typically,
Nice.
like what? 4,000 would probably be a good day. 5,000 is like the best day.
And then what they realized after a couple of years of that was, oh, wait, the fire department said we can only have 3,000 here.
Yep.
Yeah. So the fact they're 800 a day means that it's
Yeah.
going to be kind of tough to get one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish there was like a black market for this stuff.
I mean, there could be.
For free Broncos
Yeah.
training camp tickets.
I get them and then say like, yeah, $100. Yeah.
You
There's
could
just
do
no-
that. You just, have to be. Probably shouldn't say it on a podcast.
True.
Listened to by thousands of people.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
Or is that the way to get everybody reaching out saying, hey,
Drive the
Come-
price
yeah.
up.
I got tickets. I don't actually have tickets.
You could be the middleman and just take a cut.
From my understanding, there's nothing better to be than the middleman.
Yeah.
Remember, you guys have mentioned Patrick Smyth's name on here a couple of times over the past few
Yes.
days. You hope that
GOAT.
he doesn't pick this one up
Yeah.
right now. Yeah.
It's all right.
He is the GOAT.
Got a bunch of people a suite at a Rockies game this week.
Yes, he did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
So when I was racing down the stairs,
Oh, I heard this story.
did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was moving so fast and then had to chug a beer before we could leave.
And then
Shout out Broncos PR.
And then he saw a member of Broncos PR, and according to this member of Broncos PR, Henry was
The life of the party.
Henry was horrified when he saw him.
He was.
He felt like
His
he saw a
eyes-
principal.
I watched
when
the whole
chugging
thing
a
happen.
beer.
It was fun.
Henry's eyes got the size of the moon.
Yeah, I was like, wow, of all the people.
And then he was like embarrassed when we were walking away. I'm like, there's
Yeah.
nothing to be embarrassed in. It's Friday night at Coors Field. What else would you be
I was
doing?
like,
than
yeah, we're
chugging
going to
beer?
hit the bars
Yeah.
if you want to come with. And it's like, no. I'm just going to go home.
So
time.
Training camp, we just had our meeting about it. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be bringing you the best content over at thednvr.com. This show, we're going to be going live right after practices to give you the most up-to-date news on what happened at practices. Then, of course, we're going to have you covered on social as well, so make sure you're covering or following our social channels. But today, guys, we're going to break down the Broncos running back room. And Mike Clay, we talked about Mike Clay's projections for Bo Nix yesterday. We're going to talk about his projections for the Broncos running backs today. And before we get to his numbers, I want to know, who do you guys think is going to be the leading rusher? We've had this conversation in terms of like who the starter is going to be, but who's going to have more rushing yards? So 2 questions, rushing yards and then all-purpose yards from scrimmage. Henry?
This is a dark thought, but odds would suggest that J.K. Dobbins won't play 17 games. And because of that, I'm going to go RJ Harvey. It's sad, but if I'm making the bet, that's the bet I'm making.
I don't know how you can't go RJ Harvey. Now, I also believe that RJ Harvey is going to be the starter. I know you guys may disagree about that, but you take that into account. You take in that he is one of Sean Payton's 4 running backs that he's drafted in the top 100, and the other 3 have really succeeded and really done well their first year. And then plus J.K. Dobbins' injury history, to me, it's for both of those, rushing yards and yards from scrimmage, it's definitely RJ.
Can I have just to have a different take, can I have a free J.K. Dobbins injury flyer and say that if J.K. Dobbins is healthy, I think that he will lead the team in rushing yards?
So I'm giving you $100 bet, $100 right now to bet on which one will have more yards.
Yes, but you're also giving me insurance.
No,
Bet cancels out?
No, I'm not.
But you would take
I'm giving
that,
you the
though.
money. I'm giving you the money. So it's not your money.
Oh, I have free money?
Yeah.
Well, what are the odds?
Even.
Even odds on both. That's a terrible deal
Yeah,
for me.
minus 110. And over at Bet365, you can get it for minus
So
105.
you're just trying to do anything you can to make me not have a different take than the two of you, and I
No,
guess
I'm
I'll
just trying to
give
see
in.
what
I'll
you-
give in. I'll give in.
Okay.
I choose RJ Harvey.
Okay.
But
Crazy
I want to
enough-
say that if J.K. Dobbins is healthy, then I think he will, because I just feel like this will only be relevant to some of our audience, but this is something that happened with the Buffs in their quarterback situation. Everyone was so excited when they got Julian Lewis to commit, 5-star quarterback who's an incoming freshman. And then they got one of the best transfer portal quarterbacks. But everyone had already got so excited over Julian that it was like hard for them to get excited over Caden Salter. I think the same thing is happening here with RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins. Everyone got themselves so excited about RJ Harvey. And given the way that the running back room was built, it was like he's almost guaranteed to be the starter. And then J.K. Dobbins came in and it was just like, oh, but we already got so excited about RJ. We don't really have any room to get that excited over J.K. And the point I'm saying is, like, I don't know if people realize how good J.K. Dobbins is yet. He's just very injury prone. If he's healthy for an entire season, he could lead the NFL in rushing yards. So
That's okay. I was right with you till the end. I don't know that.
I think that he's that talented.
I don't know if I could get quite that far. I think he could be a Pro Bowler. I don't think I can go number 1. But I was right with you until then, and I think here's a fun way to look at it. The Broncos signed J.K. Dobbins at kind of a strange time, where you'd say, like, okay, why exactly that time and not like a month sooner or 2 months sooner or a month later? I think that conspiracy theory, maybe. They got RJ Harvey on the field. They saw that he's shifty, he can run routes, he can catch. I think Sean might have seen him on the field and said, okay, I think he can be a joker. And because of that, we know what we want is somebody who we can just trust to eat carries in the middle of the field. And if that's the case, then the reason J.K. Dobbins could get more rushing yards is because they actually think that RJ Harvey's the kind of guy that you can throw the ball to 50 times or 60 times or 70 times if you want to get crazy. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. And it might be like a minority opinion, but I think RJ Harvey is a joker.
Oh, interesting. I think RJ Harvey's a true running back. I think both of these guys are. And the reason why I don't think that J.K. Dobbins can lead the league in rushing is because he's going to be split in time. It's going to be 50-50 between these two. Mike Clay says that J.K. Dobbins is playing all 17 games this year.
Well, he says that about every player.
Well, yeah, but he says it about J.K. Dobbins. So I'm curious how that will impact his numbers here with the Broncos. Let's dive into these numbers after I give a shout out to our friends over at Toyota. If you are looking for a new car, even if you're not looking for a new car, you might just want to upgrade to a Toyota, and you can do that at so many Front Range Toyota stores close to you. Now is the time to get out and explore the country with summertime, and there's no better car to have. If you're going long distance from Denver to the East Coast, you want a Toyota so you have the durability and reliability. If you're going into the mountains, you want a car that can do it all, and Toyota, their 4Runner, literally it's in the name, 4Runner. It can do it all in the mountains right there. And I saw a Grand Highlander yesterday. Those are nice looking cars, and you can get any of these cars over at one of the Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. You got to check out their 16 different hybrid vehicles to choose from, including the Tundra iForce Max hybrid truck, and you can get these over at any of the local Front Range Toyota stores near you. Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL and the official vehicle of DNVR. Let's go places.
And shout out to Cake Mortgage. I told you guys about the example of my friend who, every couple of weeks you go over, you give him some cash, he sets you up, you're all set to go for the next couple of weeks, and there's always people coming and going, so he's making a bunch of money, but my barber might not report all of that, or he'll report all the money, but as a self-employed man, sometimes he's
gonna have deductions.
You have deductions, is how it works.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so all of a sudden you don't have the W-2. It's tough to get a mortgage. Those types of people who are self-employed can get mortgages through Cake, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff they do too. They're the future of mortgage giving, in my personal opinion. For example, if you want to buy a rental property, you can have an appraiser go and say you will get this much money every month in rent for this property, and get approved for the loan. You don't have to prove that you can pay the loan. You have to prove that you'll be able to get the income in the future. That's one of the many, many things that Cake is at the forefront of, and why, to me, Cake Mortgage is going to be taking over the world. If you want to check it out, especially if you're self-employed, a freelancer, contractor, Uber driver, whatever, head to the link in the description to get started. Cake Mortgage Corp, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 1734623, licensed in Colorado by the Division of Real Estate. Terms and conditions apply.
According to Mike Clay, we're all right. RJ Harvey is going to have more rushing yards than J.K. Dobbins. He has RJ Harvey going for 812 rushing yards with 5 touchdowns on 183 carries. He has J.K. Dobbins going for 706 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns as well, on 157 carries. Well, you're disgusted.
That is so many carries.
Combined?
Yeah.
We're looking at 330?
Yeah. It's a lot of carries.
There's no carries for anyone else, pretty much. Jaleel has 13, Michael Burton has 4, and Audric Estimé has 9.
Okay.
So that would be 476 for the season, including Bo. I'm going to see where
By
that
the
would
way,
rank last year in the NFL.
I was just looking at this. J.K. Dobbins has never, last year is the most carries he's ever had in a season. He had 195 carries in 13 games, which is pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I like that, though. Jim Harbaugh said, when you're healthy, you're going to get the rock.
Yep.
And he took advantage of that big time. Just
and then
to
he
your
got
point,
hurt.
Ryan, about how good he is when he plays, he averages 5.2 yards per carry. That's more than Derrick Henry, Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, Terrell Davis. You can go through all of these guys.
Yeah.
It's the most. In fact, if he would
Third
meet
all time, right?
if he would meet the minimum, it would be 3rd all time for the running back position. So when he's healthy, he is great. Would you guys sign up for these rushing numbers? I'll also throw in the passing numbers. He says RJ Harvey's going to have 422 receiving yards on 54 catches and 3 touchdowns as a receiver, and J.K. Dobbins is going to add 193 yards, 30 catches, and 1 touchdown. Would you guys sign up for these numbers for these two guys right now?
Can I get a calculation on what the yards per carry is on this?
They're both just under 4.5. They're both like identical. It's like 4.49.
No, I'm not taking
You're turning down 4.5. Broncos were at 4.1 last year.
But
I gotta.
But
Yeah.
the NFL average last year was 4.5.
Mm-hmm. But again, like, you have quarterbacks in there, skew things upward a bit.
Yeah.
I think if we get 4.5 a carry, I'm not
JK's
gonna.
never had less than 4.6.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Yeah, here's my thing with J.K. Dobbins. I think that when you top speed last year, 19.92 miles per hour. He did it in like the first 2 weeks when he's putting up the crazy numbers before it looked like he wasn't quite as explosive. As a rookie, he hit 22 miles an hour twice in one game. And so you have seen like this decline in like the burst in the top end speed. And because of that, typically running backs don't improve like their legs. Like their legs don't come back later in the career. So to me, if you can just get Dobbins to this point, I'm happy. And if he winds up being like a freak who's giving you 5 yards per carry, it's great. But I don't think the Broncos need that. Like, I look at the Chiefs the past couple years with old Kareem Hunt. Not like young Kareem Hunt who's doing crazy stuff, but a guy who just knows where he's going, runs really hard, is going to break some tackles, get some 4 yards every time. And it dried up a little bit toward the end of last year. But I think Dobbins is better than that. And if you just give me to that level, I'm happy. And because I'm concerned, I think part of this is I just see 17 games and I'm happy. If you give me the 700 yards over 17 games, 4.5 yards a carry, that's what they needed to find in free agency. And while it might not be like perfect scenario, it's good enough for me because I think it sets the offense up for success.
I think it's a fair point. I just, that would mean the team ends up averaging 4.45 yards per carry across the season, and that would just be disappointing to me.
The Broncos have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL.
Yeah.
Sean has quietly pointed to this many times this offseason. He does not believe the running game was not very good last year because of the offensive line. He believes it's because the running backs didn't hit the right holes. That's
Left
why they
some meat on the bone is how he said it.
Exactly, and he said it multiple times. That's why they completely redid this running back room. Sean only uses 2 running backs. Well, they have 2 brand new running backs right now. It's completely redone, and RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins, and that's why I think that he's not looking just for a little bump, like, oh, we were terrible last year, let's just hope we can get a little bump this year. No, he's looking for a complete jump from this group, and that's why I would turn this down. And Henry, let's look at a bigger picture because we want to compare it to the rest of the NFL. Well, I've got a reason why all of us would probably turn this down. Yesterday, remember when we looked at the quarterback room and you look at the starters, backups, he ranks all of them. It's at a scale of 10. 10 being the best, 0 or 1 being the worst. And the Broncos were 5 at quarterback, and we're like, that's disrespectful. What in the world? He has Bo being a top 10 quarterback. There are 4 teams with a 10 grade, so perfect grade from the running back position. There's 2 teams with a 9, couple teams with an 8, couple teams with a 7, couple teams with 6, 5, 4, and 1 team with a 3. There's no 2s and there's no 1s here. With RJ Harvey, J.K. Dobbins, Jaleel, and Audric Estime. Where do you think he has the Broncos?
I already know.
You know, yeah.
4.
Close. He has them at a 3. He has the Broncos as the worst running back room in the NFL.
Wow.
Crazy. I don't see what he's seeing.
I don't either. I mean, he doesn't trust a rookie, and he doesn't believe in JK, I guess, because it's hard to. How does he rank this? This isn't the whole 17 game thing.
Yeah,
this is a different formula or a different.
Just I don't even know it's formula.
He's
more so just like
just
who's
straight
best.
up
tearing it off.
Exactly. He just ranks them.
That's odd to me.
How does he have the Cowboys ahead of the Broncos? Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue, Miles Sanders, and Deuce Vaughn. I don't. He even lists Javonte as their starter.
That's crazy.
Javonte was. I mean,
Javonte would easily be RB3 on the Broncos right now.
Yes, 100%. There's just no doubt about that.
Yeah, and again, like, I disagree. We said yesterday, like, we'd take the Broncos running backs over the Cowboys. If you wanted to make the case, though, the case is that after those 2 weeks at the beginning of last year where J.K. Dobbins was, again, that's top speed if you want to go by those metrics, playing against the Raiders and the Panthers, the Panthers were dead last in run defense last year. After that, he averaged 3.8 yards per carry over the course of the other 11 regular season games he played. And then it was even less than that in the playoff game. Javonte for the year, I think, was at 3.8. So if you wanted to make the case that those 2 guys are maybe in more similar places, with the difference being Dobbins is less likely to play more games this year, just given his injury history. So maybe that's a tiebreaker for Javonte over J.K. Dobbins. I wouldn't make that case, but if you wanted to put the running backs way down there, that might be what they were thinking.
That's crazy to me personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a slap in the face to RJ Harvey, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I mean, I wonder who the last second round picks at running back were. I can pull those up. Because again, like, I am high on RJ Harvey. Like I said, I think he's a joker. And I think that there's 5 joker running backs in the NFL, putting him in Sean's hands, he's going to do crazy numbers. But he hasn't ever set foot on an NFL field before.
Yeah.
So, it's not like there's no reason. It's just that I see more weight in the reasons why you'd have the Broncos higher.
So I'm trying to pull up the numbers when during Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara's first season together. So here's what happened, and here's the numbers that I would take definitely right now. And Mark Ingram, this is in Alvin Kamara's first season, rushed for 1,124 yards and 12 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara, and that was on a 4.9 yards per carry. Alvin Kamara led the NFL in yards per carry or yards per attempt at 6.1. He ran for 728 yards and 8 touchdowns and added 826 yards through the air.
Unbelievable.
Now, is it fair to expect RJ Harvey to be Alvin Kamara?
No.
No. But is it crazy? I also don't think so. Alvin Kamara was a 3rd-round pick. RJ Harvey is 2nd-round pick. With Sean Payton.
To me, it's crazy to expect that.
Yes.
It's not crazy to hope for it, though.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And looking through, so like last year, the only 2nd-round running back was Jonathan Brooks, who had the ACL, hardly played. Year before that, only 2nd-round running back was Zach Charbonnet, who is a rotational guy. Before that, Kenneth Walker, James Cook, so good year. Before that, just Javonte Williams. Before that, DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon. Yeah. Year before that, Miles Sanders. Year before that, none, actually. Dalvin Cook was in there.
Who were the ones last year?
Last year was just Jonathan Brooks, who didn't play.
So it's kind of been alternating. Good, bad, good, bad. This is a good year.
This is a good one. I like it. And that's what Baldy last week when we talked to him said the sweet spot to get a running back's the 2nd round. And that's what the Broncos did right there. I think people get too caught up with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, and they just think like, oh, all he does is throw the ball. That's all Sean's gonna do. No, Sean has typically always, or most always, had really good running games as well.
Yeah, I mean, he is like a run to pass or pass to run guy, or run to whatever you want to say. He uses the pass to set up the run. Whereas, a lot of other teams will use the run to set up the pass. He goes the other way about it. And the passing game has been so successful over the years that, of course, the running game is going to be successful because they're seeing light boxes. And that's why I don't like the idea of the Broncos running backs averaging 4.45 yards per carry across the season. Because if things go to plan, they should be going up against lighter boxes because Bo Nix has become enough of a threat to where teams don't want to stack against him. And you're in year 2 of this offensive line understanding the scheme. So I'm expecting at least 4.6, 4.7 yards per carry from the running backs for this team to be as good as I think they can possibly be.
I agree. I think both are going to play off each other, the pass game and the run game. And they're both going to take big steps in the right direction.
So these projections would have, based on how teams played last year, the Broncos as the number 11 team in yards per carry, number 11 in rushing yards per game, which is a step up from being, I think, like 21st and 17th, 16th, something like that. Again, like,
how many 1,000-yard rushers were there last year? Because remember how yesterday we talked about
16, half the league.
Wow. So exactly. So remember how yesterday we talked about how it felt like Mike Clay really hedged his quarterback stats. Mm-hmm. Like all the numbers were more in the middle than outliers. I think it's the opposite with the running back stats because he has 23,000-yard rushers.
17
games
yep.
thing.
Sure. But I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like compared to last year, like I think his numbers for the Broncos wouldn't be 11th. I think they would be bottom 10 or significantly further down in this year's numbers.
Yeah, it could be. But yeah, to me, I think if the Broncos defense is what it was last year, and I've said before, like they were really good, even with more talent, it might be tough to be that good again, but they can certainly do it. They could even be better. If you do that, if the pass game stays where it was last year and the running backs take a jump from or the running game takes a jump from like below average to fringe top 10, that's enough to be a playoff team at the very least. And that could be a big enough jump to where you're saying like, 12 wins instead of 10 wins. Like, the Broncos don't need to get way better, I don't think. I think that they're probably set up to be at least as good as they were in every category last year. If this is the spot where they take a jump, even if it's not the ideal jump, to me, that's good enough. I think that's why I look at these and say, sign me up.
Fair. He's got a very interesting leading rusher in the entire NFL. I'll let you guys think on who that could be when I give a shout out to our friends over at, this is a cool one, True Fan Travel. We are going to London, and we want you to join us. And the really cool thing is True Fan Travel has made it so easy. Sometimes just going to a Broncos game in Denver or going to a Broncos game out of town is complicated enough, especially going to one overseas. True Fan Travel says, we're going to take all the worry and hassle away from you. We're going to get you tickets to the game. We're going to get you tickets to the best tailgate for Broncos fans out there with us. We're going to get you sightseeing tours around London. We're going to get you into pub crawls around London as well. We're going to get you to see London, and we're going to take care of your hotel. And you can book that entire package over at truefantravel.com. And plus, you can even get flights included. So it's just a one-stop shop over at True Fan Travel, and it's going to include so many events with us. It's going to be an awesome week. Benny's going to be out there with us, and I promise you it's going to be so much fun that entire week, and then capped off with the Broncos win against the Jets. So if you want to join us across the pond for the Broncos Week 6 game in London, go to truefantravel.com to get your tickets. As Henry said, a lot of people are buying them already, so you want to get in before they're gone.
2 things that will be in London: Benny and the Jets.
Ah, yes.
Wow.
Impressive.
How fun. You sold another ticket.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Also, shout out to our friends over at Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, who, maybe if we smuggle some into our bag, we'll also be in London.
Ooh, wow.
We did get Raising Cane's when I was in New York City for the Heisman ceremony. We were just we went out, we're stumbling home, back to our hotel room, boom. Just like an oasis in the desert, Raising Cane's. And it was popping in there. Raising Cane's is low-key always a vibe. And the one that's the closest to us has like a nice little patio that you can sit out there. Great place to hang out in the summer. Get yourself a nice crispy Diet Coke, some box combo. Sit out in the sun, enjoy it. It's
cane
great
sauce, man.
Yeah, cane sauce hits every time. So get over to our friends over at Raising Cane's. Have those delicious chicken fingers. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love.
Okay, before we wrap this conversation up, he has an interesting leading rusher in the NFL. Who would your guess be? Do you know?
So you have to assume health. So I kind of wonder if it's like Christian McCaffrey would be an easy one. That probably wouldn't be too interesting.
Interesting.
Maybe it's not too interesting.
I'm gonna say
Christian McCaffrey?
I was a little surprised.
I'm going to say Jonathan Taylor.
Nailed it. Jonathan Taylor, then Saquon Barkley. He's got Jonathan Taylor going for 1,655 yards.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor looked like he fell off for a year and then came back storming.
Yes.
And then fumbled right before the
Thank
end zone.
goodness he did that.
Thank God for
Could
that.
you imagine?
Shout
Those
out.
alternate history things are so fun. But I think that would have put him up 17-3, I want to say.
Yeah.
And instead, you wind up in a 10-10 game pretty quickly thereafter, I think. So if that doesn't happen, then the Broncos probably don't make the playoffs. And then there's no championship window talk, right? Because you're probably just saying hey, you still got to take that step and then we can talk about it. But it's just because he dropped that ball, so many things just went the other way.
It's crazy. The 2 biggest plays for the Broncos this entire year, in my opinion, one of them was totally out of the Broncos' control. One of them was Pat Surtain's pick 6 against the Raiders. That completely flipped the game. That completely changed the Broncos season. It completely changed the Raiders season, too. They went on a 13-game losing streak right after that. Broncos went on and got everything right. And then the other one was Jonathan Taylor just dropping the ball.
If Jonathan Taylor doesn't drop that ball, does Pat still win Defense Player of the Year? Because I think part of the appeal is that, look how good this Broncos defense was. They got to the playoffs. Do they give it to a guy who doesn't make the playoffs? I don't know.
Here's the case for him getting it.
Trey Hendrickson.
But he didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, but
They
would have.
He probably
They would have if the Broncos didn't.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well then, if they make the playoffs because the Broncos don't.
And then
17 and a half sacks,
And then does Trey Hendrickson already have a contract?
Or is it
Probably.
even worse contract
It's worse because he's
negotiations
worth
now?
more money.
Yeah. And then so maybe they would have just traded him. They said we pay Higgins, we paid Chase, we can't afford it.
I had someone with experience in Cincinnati reach out to me yesterday after we had that conversation about them, and just people love shitting on Cincinnati.
Yep.
They do.
Yep.
They're not. Again, they're a good, solid team. You know what they remind me of? They remind me of like the Cincinnati Bengals from like 10 years ago. It's like, yes, Burrow's better than Dalton, but then also like you don't have whatever else. It's like, yeah, Jamar Chase is great. They had AJ Green. Like this, to me, it's just the same kind of team where it's like, yep, playoffs, sure, every year. But are you really going to win anything? They just don't have the juice.
Man, I just don't want to write off Joe Burrow. Did you guys see the picture of Joe Burrow late at night in New York City with his girlfriend?
No.
You should look it up because someone said this is what LimeWire would look like if it was a person.
It's not my quarterback.
It's actually,
Burrow.
I don't know. I
Well,
like
did you
Joe.
see him?
I believe in Joe.
Did you see him
you're
throw
kind
the
of a
pitches?
Burrow, he threw a pitch.
Oh, that's a good
It
video.
was bad.
Well, yeah.
I feel like he would have nailed it.
So it's at the
Oh my
Fanatics
God.
Fest or whatever.
I thought he grew his hair out.
If
Did
you
he
guys
chop
want to
it
pull
off?
that picture
He's
up
always.
of Joe
I think
Burrow.
he did too, but then he's gone.
Was he wearing extensions?
Oh, yeah,
if
he's
somebody
got a new
would.
hairstyle, right?
Yeah, but so he was throwing the pitches in like the pitching machine and was just spiking them all. Again, like it's kind of unfair to compare to Bo because Bo knew that he was going to be throwing out a first pitch, and so it's like,
Right.
yeah, I'm gonna figure this stuff out instead of just being thrown in.
Yeah, but at the same time, like we were at Cherry Cricket before the Rockies game, and they had like a pitching game in there, and like all of us could throw a ball.
And like Joe Burrow wouldn't have been able to put it in the freaking
Yeah,
thing.
like he would have missed the machine.
we would have beaten Joe Burrow with that.
That's so
By a
weird because
mile.
I
Yeah.
feel like Joe Burrow would have had. I would have said he would have been good at that.
Speaking of, did you see the video of Perna
No.
playing that game at like a arcade where you throw the football into the?
No.
There's like 4 targets.
Yeah.
No.
Like this, he was just drilling the center
Wow.
target.
Wow.
You think it was the first take?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Perna, QB1.
Shout out Perna.
Wow. That's the nicest thing you've said about Perna.
Yeah, people think that we have beef, but I actually love Brandon Perna.
Yeah. I think, how can you not love
Exactly.
Brandon Perna? Okay, so let's dive in to this Broncos-Eagles Week 5 game. Is this the most difficult game on the Broncos schedule?
No,
I don't think so either.
I think the
No.
Eagles are overrated.
Me
Don't-
too.
Don't tell my wife.
They're not that good.
She might be right at the bottom of that stairwell. She just walked by a couple minutes ago.
She's out there somewhere, which means that she's not in her office where they usually play our show.
That's a good point.
So we're good.
Wow. Why do you think you said overrated? I want to use your words.
Yeah, overrated. They just lost a lot.
Yeah. And they were thin before. It's a thin team who lost a lot of good players.
Yeah,
I am.
and they had great injury luck, which most teams that win the Super Bowl do.
Yeah. I'm kind of shocked. I was not expecting this from either of you, let alone both of you. Let's see what they lost. Let's pull it up. Okay, Henry, take us through this. That is a big list.
Start with the
I mean,
losses.
all of the names of the players on the right, you've
Yeah.
heard of them all.
Yeah.
All the other people that we've done, all the other teams have like 6 guys on there that I've never heard of.
Yeah. No, it's fair. So take us through it, Henry.
Yeah, I mean, so up at the top, you lose Milton Williams, who got $26 million a year. Lose Josh Sweat, who got $19 million a year. Darius Slay, Mekhi Becton each get $10 million a year. Traded away Bryce Huff. Cut James Bradbury. CJ Gardner-Johnson got traded. Brandon Graham, I believe, retired. But so you go through there and say, like, okay, so starting cornerbacks, you lose them. That's fine. You had like the young guys go through there.
Yeah, not really. Those weren't the starting cornerbacks in the Super Bowl, were they?
Slay
Slay
was
would have
for
been.
sure out there. I don't think Bradbury was
I think
because
not Wiggins.
what's his name?
Quinyon Mitchell and then
Quinyon
Cooper
Mitchell
DeJean.
and
Cooper
Cooper
DeJean.
DeJean.
Those are
Yeah.
your starting cornerbacks now.
Yeah.
Yep, but
But yeah.
you're down to 2 from having 4 very
And
solid
last
players.
year is like, oh wow, look how deep they are at corner. And now you're like, oh well, they're still good, but they are no longer deep there. And there's one of the few places they're deep. But then you-
Personally, I feel if I'm an Eagles fan, I feel better about my corners this year than last year.
Bro,
Quinyon Mitchell being second year with, or third year with
no, it's second year.
Cooper DeJean. Second year?
yeah.
Second year for both of them.
Second year for both of them. Okay, even better than yeah. And now those two are starters from playing well in a Super Bowl. Yeah, I feel better.
You feel better than having Darius Slay? And
Slay's
then
the
those
one that's
guys
tough,
were
yeah.
still on the roster, but
Yeah, I do.
that doesn't make
Because
any
now
sense.
because now they're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think both of those guys are better than Darius Slay.
Okay.
Where did Darius Slay go? Did he go?
Steelers got $10 million.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think there's
$10 million for a
age
cornerback
things.
now. They're going for $30 million right now.
well, he's not a
34.
superstar.
Yeah, he's
anymore.
not like a spring
That's
chicken.
what Quinyon Mitchell is supposed to be, and
Yeah.
and honestly, same with Riley Moss's buddy. Why can't I remember his name?
Cooper DeJean.
Yeah.
It's one of those
All right,
things
we'll
where,
see.
like,
Also, one injury and then who?
exactly.
They're
And-
young guys.
I think that's what you'd say about, like, that's their whole thing. So their additions, though, they lose Brandon Graham, they lose Bryce Huff, and they replace them with Azeez Ojulari from the Giants, who they were able to get for $3 million. Josh Uche for $1.9 million because the Chiefs didn't want him anymore. Adoree Jackson comes in. There's your depth. Got Kenyon Green back, one of the Kenyon Greens back in the trade for CJ Gardner-Johnson, I believe. Then drafted linebacker in the first round. Their top free agent was $3 million.
Which really quick, teams can usually only handle having CJ Gardner-Johnson around for 1 year.
Yeah.
He'll be an Eagle again by
their
the Super
defense
Bowl.
is usually really good that year.
Exactly.
And so that's a big loss for them.
Yeah. They got much worse. I mean, if you just look at like value of guys out versus values of guys in, like just AAV, they're losing $90 million in players and replacing them with like $8 million in players.
AAV, not to be confused with AV.
True. No. Would you like to know their AVs?
Yes.
Oh, shoot, because that sounds really hard. I just assumed you were
Henry,
done with those.
you said that they got much worse. Like how
Yeah.
much worse, if you can quantify it in some way? 'Cause I'm just curious how
$90 million worse.
Here's
actually though. Like, do you actually think that? Because that's a third of the salary
and you
cap. So you
lose-
think they got a third worse?
you lose Mekhi Becton. Like here, Mina Kimes on her podcast made a really good point that's kind of stuck with me. She said the Eagles are not a team that's built to win from behind. They're a team that's meant to get in front. Like you look at all the third down stats, like third down pass, they just can't move the chains because either they're taking sacks because Jalen Hurts holds the ball too long, all this sort of stuff. But it just never really mattered because they were so dominant. Now that they are thin, you start to look at them and say, like, if you don't have A.J. Brown, your weapons in the passing game are Jahan Dotson, not scary. Still have Devonta Smith, Johnny Wilson, Terrace Marshall, tight end Dallas Goedert, but your backup is Grant Calcaterra because you no longer have the other guy.
No, Calcaterra, I think, was their backup last
was he?
year.
Oh, okay. But you look through and say, like, oh, that's no longer like the overwhelming, just like super talented passing game. If you just don't have A.J. Brown or you don't have Devonta Smith. Obviously,
Look at what
you
you're
don't
doing,
Saquon.
though. You're saying, like, if you don't have A.J. Brown or Devontae
totally.
Smith, because they have A.J. Brown, they have Devontae Smith,
Yeah.
they have Dallas Goedert, they have Saquon Barkley. Like, what?
But look at the Broncos.
What are we doing here?
If the Broncos,
Like,
if the
sure,
Bron-
if any team is decimated with
I don't
injury,
agree.
then yeah,
No.
they're gonna be hurt.
I'm
Yeah,
not-
look at the Broncos.
if J.K. Dobbins goes down, RJ Harvey, like RJ
No,
Harvey goes, J.K. Dobbins.
you were pointing to tight ends and receivers.
Yeah.
So you're saying,
Devon-
knock on wood,
Devon Bailey, Marvin Mims go down. Guess
no,
what? You've
you were
got
pointing
Troy
to A.J.
Franklin.
Brown. You were talking
Cortland
to their
Sutton.
number one. If Cortland Sutton goes down, you're worried.
Yes, of course.
If
I'm
Evan
already worried
Ingram
about the
goes
room
down,
before anyone goes
if
down.
Evan Ingram goes down, you're worried.
Yeah, that's not the point I'm making. Mine is just they lost a ton and they had incredible injury luck last year.
Exactly. A.J. Brown, a guy who always gets injured until last year.
I find it unlikely that they're going to be as good from a fully healthy roster perspective, and then they're likely to regress from an injury luck perspective.
And then you go
That's totally fair.
Saquon Barkley, who had more carries than any running back in the NFL last year. Are you really going to get him through another season doing all that? Like, to me, the injury luck is important, but then the other piece of that, from Broncos' perspective, is if there's ever a team that could stop the Eagles for a quarter because their defense is good enough and force them to feel like they have to throw the ball more, it would be the Broncos. Like, if there's one team who can stop them from getting to the formula of we can just feed Saquon for the first 15 minutes or use Saquon to force heavy boxes, and then all of a sudden you just have Jalen Hurts doing simple stuff, throwing one-on-ones to two really good receivers, Broncos can take that away. And I think that that's why this game, if the Broncos actually just don't get blown out in the first quarter, I really like their chances.
Yeah, I mean, another example is like Mekhi Becton, first-round pick who was injured his entire career. Comes into the Eagles healthy and looks like a first-round pick. Now he's
Exactly.
gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like now it's Tyler Steen there, who personally just doesn't scare me. Again, like they still have other good players on that offensive line, but
it's
those
not
are
like I don't
regressed a
think they're
little.
a playoff team. I just don't think they're
Exactly.
a tier 1 contender.
Like last year to me, they
Wow.
were like almost like that dominant Warriors team when they add Kevin Durant, and you're just like, oh, they're just untouchable. Like if you
And
feed
they didn't
them,
really feel like that until the end of the season / playoffs. Like they were kind of just scraping their way by because
they had to find their footing.
they had a habit of just letting teams back into games.
But they
What was
just
their record?
I don't know.
I think they won 12 games. Maybe 13.
Because they were the 1 seed. No, Detroit was the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Sorry. So the
Yeah.
Eagles were the 2 seed then.
14-3,
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
14-3. I think they're a 12 or 13 win team,
probably.
which is to me
Maybe
I think they're
definitely
maybe a
11 or
tick
12.
below.
definitely a competitor for a Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, I just said they're not a tier 1 contender.
Oh, I think 12 and 13 wins is a tier 1 contender.
I don't think they're going to win 13 games. I don't think they're going to win.
Okay, well, I'm saying 12 or 13. That's how I view them. I view them as a really, really, really good team. And I'm just not sure if you guys agree. I'm not trying to pull you guys down. If I don't know where you are. I just think that this is a team. I also think Jalen Hurts is still getting better. And after the Super Bowl,
I'm
I
a
put
big
him.
Jalen Hurts believer.
I put him in the superstar category. And I got a lot of pushback from Henry
Yeah.
and Todd on that.
Not me.
But
And Fran.
but I think he's I think he's there. I mean, you just look at numbers, you look at winning, you look at everything.
Yeah.
He is in that top tier. So
I
I
only gotta
believe in
look at-
Jalen Hurts.
I only got to look at 2 games. The 2 times that he outperformed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
There you go.
If you just load the box though and let him throw one-on-ones, he can do that. But in a world in which they aren't playing defenses where it's just like we have to stop Saquon, we have to stop Saquon, we have to stop Saquon. Like I think it looks a little bit different. Again, then you go to the sack numbers, you go to the
They
third
have
down.
Saquon.
Totally, but that's why I don't say Jalen Hurts is like this great quarterback. Is like he's good, but to get to that level, you want to see him be like the important piece of the team and not like the because it's like Jamal Murray, where it's like there's always just a ceiling when you're not the guy who's actually doing the thing. You know, Saquon's the reason that all works. Saquon's the reason they defend him that way with that offensive line.
They
and
got
he plays
Saquon
off that
last
so well.
year.
Yeah.
Ryan said he outperformed Mahomes in a Super Bowl 2 years in a row. So that means he did it without Saquon.
But again, that's one game, and
Well, no,
I
it's
don't,
a
I
whole
don't remember
season leading
exactly
up
what
to the
happened.
game because
I
you
don't
get to
remember
the
exactly what
Super
happened.
Bowl.
No,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
mean,
good team though.
He's
It's
just
a
a
good
different
team.
style of great quarterback, and the big thing for him is just that he's a dog, and there's no way to measure that, and that's why he balls out in the Super Bowl.
So again, 5-year career, 93 passer rating, 103 last year. Like there was that big jump because of
And
the
that's why
fact
they
that you have
won
that.
the Super Bowl instead of
Totally.
just getting there.
So I have a
Totally.
question though. When you look at Lamar Jackson, do you include his rushing stats?
Of course,
Why would you not do that with Jalen Hurts?
you do.
When you just threw up numbers of
No,
Jalen
but I'm
Hurts,
just
you
saying,
were
as like as a
looking at
passing quarterback.
specifically.
Well, I don't have
running's
like
part
a
of it.
well-rounded, like here's every single thing. To me, if it's third down, I don't want Jalen Hurts to be my quarterback. I'd be just as happy with Bo Nix right there as I would with Jalen Hurts. That's where I'm at. And I think that is such a big part of who you want as a quarterback, that if you start putting them in those situations because you're able to slow Saquon down, it's a different game. Last year, by the end of the year, nobody could slow Saquon down. Like you give him 5 touches, one of them's going for 60 yards. He was just that unstoppable. And maybe that's the case when the Broncos play them again. To me, though, I think the Broncos defense has the DBs to lock down those receivers and win those one-on-ones. And so you don't get beat because you have this loaded box against Saquon. And I think that's the only kind of formula that stops this team.
Okay, so let's dive into this game like you're starting to do, Henry. I asked you both, this is the hardest game on the schedule. You both said no. Is that
Do
right?
you think it is?
I do think this is. But look, guys, you're playing the Super Bowl champs early in the season on the road. That's probably, unless the team loses Peyton Manning right after winning a Super Bowl like the Broncos did, that's probably going to be the most difficult game for any team. So yes, I do think this is. Saying that, the Broncos have a chance in this game because I do like the way they match up. So this is, I think, a positive conversation for the Broncos. Some people in the Toyota chat might have been misunderstanding what I'm saying by saying the Eagles are a great team. And I think this is the hardest game on the schedule, and the Broncos still have a chance in this game right here. So let's break this down. We've looked at how the Eagles have gotten worse this offseason. Now let's compare what the Eagles team is now to what the Broncos team is now in this Broncos-Eagles matchup battle. And you hear maybe giving respect to the Eagles by not giving the Broncos the advantage on defense to start? I thought we were doing that.
Not with this team.
Wow, not with this team, he says. Okay, so let's start with the quarterback.
Eagles.
Yeah. I just said he's in that tier 1. I think tier 1, I think Bo can be in that tier 1, but he's not there now.
Long way to go, yeah.
Running back, Eagles. That might be the first time, by the way, that I've given the other team. No, I gave the Colts with Jonathan Taylor. The running back. Receiver, Eagles.
Yep.
Yep.
Tight
end is probably
just a clean
Eagles,
sweep.
too.
Ooh. Hasn't Goddard slowed down a tiny bit?
Probably, I don't know.
That's
Not the
thing.
year before he had 114 catches.
496 yards in 10 games.
What about two years ago?
592 before that,
Give me
702
Ingram.
before
Give me
that,
Evan
830.
Ingram, baby.
Do you care that one guy can block and the other can't?
I
Sean
don't.
Payton doesn't, but I don't know how to.
Yeah.
He's playing receiver.
Right, which really just
Goddard
messes
is
up the whole thing.
In some ways, like,
I also don't think that Evan Ingram can't block. I think he's an average blocker. Is he a fantastic blocker? Is he George Kittle? No, but I think he is a average blocker for a tight end.
I would say passable at best.
when he blocks a little guy, he does well.
You mean blockable at best?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Um,
We
So
can go
I'm going Ingram, but you guys
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
go the other way.
I mean,
It's-
the injury stuff scares me a bit too, but Goddard's been hurt, so
So we've agreed on all of these so far.
Yep.
Offensive line. Oof.
that's Eagles.
I think, but you were trashing their new guy at who's filling in for Mekhi Becton.
But remember, this was best offensive line in the NFL over and over and over.
Yeah.
And so like while they're I don't think the Eagles are bad. I just think that like this every single game they should be double digit favorites. I don't think they're that team anymore.
Well,
offensive line, same thing.
And it should be noted that everyone kind of thought that like Jason Kelsey was the engine that made that offensive line go. He leaves, and they didn't miss a beat. They almost
Yeah.
got better at everything except
Wound
the
up with
tush
another
push.
All-Pro. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Eagles. This is the first time
Yeah.
that we've given the other team the advantage at offensive line. And this might be the only time. Just thinking in my head really quick, the rest of the schedule might be the only time.
Yeah, this defense could get interesting too.
Yeah.
Run defense.
I need some numbers.
I would
This is the one area of the team that they didn't really lose much except for Milton
Milton.
Williams.
So they didn't lose much for
On the
run defense on
defensive
that,
line.
other than they did lose Josh Sweat to a $20 million a year deal.
true.
Brandon Graham retired.
Okay,
the
actually,
more pass rush though than run defense.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like it's not now
They
on the
also
field.
are just so loaded up at those positions, like across the entire defensive line. They've just been taking Georgia guys for like 5 straight
Yep.
years.
So got Nolan Smith out there.
They got
It's
a
gotta
good
be-
linebacker, too, in the
Yep.
draft with Jihad Campbell.
Yep.
With Nakobe Dean and
They
Zach
kept
Bond.
Zach Bond, yeah.
This has got to be Eagles.
It's got to be, except the stats from last year, and it's not fair because it's not the exact same team, would indicate it's Broncos. I believe. What
10th
was-
in rush yard defense, 9th in yards per attempt.
That's what the Eagles are.
Yeah.
Right. But what were the Broncos?
Broncos.
Broncos might have been better.
They were 3rd in total yards, 2nd in yards per attempt.
See, that's what I'm saying. The numbers indicate it's Broncos,
The
but
Broncos are bringing back
everyone.
everything.
Yeah.
I would also assume that the Eagles were playing a lot of teams that were down in games, and so they were throwing the ball a lot, which would affect the total, but it would also mean that
That would
like
help them.
Well, this would be
Oh,
a
sorry.
Broncos.
But then when you do run the ball against those lighter defenses that are expecting so many passes, that's where you might hit. So total defense, it wouldn't help, but yards per attempt, you would prefer to be running against a defense that thinks you're passing.
But yards, total yards given
Exactly.
up, if they're only passing more,
Yes.
that should help them, and it didn't.
This is Broncos.
Yeah, I'm going Broncos.
I gotta go Eagles, but sure.
That's fair. First one we disagree on comes
What's
here.
the reason for why you want Eagles?
because it's Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis in the middle with, again, like outside guys, a little flimsy at the same time. Like, it's not like Nick Bonito is the greatest run defender either. And then with Zach Bond and Kobe Dean behind him, Jihad Campbell can play on those edges too. Like, that's just, it's if you were to try to build a defensive front to stop the run, there's a chance that Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis would be like a part of that. There's a chance that you go Zach Bond as like the number one linebacker you'd want behind that in the entire
Yeah, but
league.
with the Broncos having a top 3 defense in this last year and not losing anyone, it's hard for me to pick against them.
Fair.
What's going to be interesting, though, is where do we pick the Eagles on defense? Because the Broncos were a top 3 defense overall. The Eagles were were the best defense in terms of yards allowed and the second best defense in terms of points allowed. Pass rush, I imagine it's Broncos. They're the best pass rushers and wasn't even close last year.
Yeah. No, I mean, you lose those guys.
They're
I
not
think
going to win
Broncos.
coverage.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like their edges.
So I don't know.
Edges would be Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt, Azeez Ojulari, Josh Uche coming off the bench. Like, that's not. It's Broncos pass rush, I think, and it's not close.
I mean, the stats. The
And it's
stats
Broncos
are,
coverage.
Yes,
and it's
the
not really
stats are
close.
going to say it's Broncos deep run defense, pass defense, coverage. When you break it down, you see some big names on the Eagles.
So what was it about the Eagles defense that made them so good last year?
Vic
That'd be a good
Fangio,
question.
that's what you hear saying.
It'd be start in the trenches. Like the fact that they're getting home with 4 every single time, but it's just different when you get like Milton Williams gone, $26 million a year. Josh Sweat gone, $20 million a year. Brandon Graham retires. Like there's just, it's
Give
just
me the
different.
sweep. Give
So
me the
They're
sweep.
no longer
So
just sending waves of those guys without drop off.
And I agree with you about coverage, but if we're going to look at the personnel on the Eagles and say, man, it looks like their run defense is better, but then we look at the numbers and say, oh, well, it's Broncos run defense, so we go Broncos run defense there. Coverage, you would do the opposite. You would look at the Broncos, the pieces they have, and you would say, my goodness, they only upgraded too with Talanoa Hufanga. They got the Defensive Player of the Year. But then you look at the numbers for the Eagles last year, and I know things did change, so
Yeah.
that's part of it. But they had the number 1 pass defense in the NFL last year. They gave up the fewest yards through the air and the fewest net yards per attempt through the air too.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
The thing is, Darius Slay was a big part of that, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson was a big part of that.
No, I mean I'm for sure going coverage too. I'm just saying
Yeah,
the
I
stats
understand.
were actually extremely
The
impressive.
big
last
thing for
year.
me was that the Broncos, nothing changed about their front.
Yeah. I agree. And the
Yeah.
Eagles did lose people.
And the crazy thing is that last year, like Milton Williams was their Malcolm Roach. And it's not that Malcolm Roach is bad. It's just that is an insane person to have in that role. And so when all of a sudden you're back down to like, okay, the guys on your bench are just like regular bench guys, not like, holy cow, we've got James Bradbury on the bench. Holy cow, we've got Quinyon Mitchell on the bench until everything changes. Like that's where they've lost so much. And I think over the course of a season, how you get to a number 1 defense is just being like, oh, this guy's hurt. Doesn't even matter. This guy's hurt. Doesn't even matter. This is a 7-play drive and guys need rest. Still just as good as when we started. Maybe even better because you find out Milton Williams, $26 million a year player.
So we're going pass rush Broncos, coverage Broncos, coach. This
Coach is interesting because you have a coach who has been in the league for 4 years now? He's been to the Super Bowl twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his fans want him fired all the
he's-
time still.
He's the defending Super Bowl champion coach.
When we say coach, is it just the head coach or is it like also Vic Fangio is running this defense?
It's just
Yeah,
been
we've
head
only
coach.
been
Okay.
doing Sean against Sirianni. I'd go Sean. But
Yeah,
uh,
sure.
Eagles fans might see this and be like, what the hell are they thinking? And I would understand them thinking that as well.
It's interesting. I mean, if it came down to I'm starting a team and I have to choose one of these 2 guys to be my coach, I'm gonna choose Sean Payton.
I think Eagles
Easy.
would too.
Yep.
I don't think they would. I don't
Okay.
think they would. Now I think Sirianni's like minted in Philly now.
As he should be.
Yeah.
As he should be.
Should be.
He's a hell of a coach.
But he has like an incredible winning percentage. It's
Also, he's had coordinators plucked left and right
Yes.
in his short time, and he's just found another one, stepped in, and then they're plucked, and he just continues to succeed.
there's a great case for Sirianni. I wouldn't blame anyone
Totally.
if they said that
100%.
you should go Sirianni.
What is the case? Just he won a Super Bowl?
He's come in and been good the entire time.
2 Super Bowl appearances.
Like Zach said, lost coordinators. That's oftentimes like a sign if you lose coordinators and then fall off. It's like, oh, okay, it wasn't really you. It was the coordinators. He's replaced them. Done great. I think he's done a great job with Jalen Hurts. I think that just in general, I think that everything he's done has been good.
Would you go Sirianni or would you go Sean?
No, I would still go Sean. I also think that like Sirianni is, and I don't know how it applies to this graphic, but like Sirianni is just perfect for Philly.
He is.
Yeah.
Like if I was starting a team in Denver, I wouldn't want him.
Right.
Starting a team in Philly, I might.
Right. Okay, we're going to wrap up this conversation over in overtime. Go to thednvr.com and then scroll down to see the rest of this show in overtime. I want to make one final thing about this graphic. We haven't picked any other team on the defensive category, have we yet?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't know if we're going to. If we didn't do it with the Eagles, I don't know if we're going to do it against any team.
Depends on what the teams who were number 1 and 2 in run defense were last year, and what they kept. Because we're not picking anyone in pass rusher coverage.
No, it's very true. And if the Broncos even play those teams with the run defense, so
by the way, defense in the NFL is all about rush and cover. And we're going to say the Broncos have the best pass rush and the best coverage of any team in the league.
And this is why when you add the run defense in there as well, this is why when I view Vance Joseph's future with the team, I think he's either going to this defense is going to succeed so well and be limiting Jalen Hurts and this offense to 17 points and then shutting down Mahomes like they did last year for 17 points and keeping Justin Herbert to 13 points in a 20-point game one time. And it's going to be so good that someone just says, I have to have Vance Joseph as my head coach, and he's hired after this season to be a head coach somewhere. Or the defense is 10th overall and Sean Payton takes a step back and says, no, we should have been better than we were last year and we were top 3. I'm going to have someone else come in, and Jim Leonard's going to run this defense, and he's going to be out. I think the closer we get to the season, the more I'm just feeling that way.
It's going to be the number 1 defense.
And I agree. I don't think it's going to be disappointing, but this is why I don't think Vance Joseph's here in 2026.
It would be really interesting to see how Vance does in a head coaching cycle. If the Broncos have the number 1 defense.
I hope he does well.
Me too.
He got 2 interviews this year. But nothing really picked up after that. So it's going to be interesting. We have one super chat coming in from John Morton, who says, Josh Morton. Did I say that wrong? Oh, Josh Morton, who says, how we feeling about the Broncos Madden rating? Did you guys see this?
Well, because it's not real. So this is for the beta that they send out. So like people get to play the game, but they send it out with like kind of just random ratings for everybody so that it doesn't spoil what the ratings are. Otherwise, everybody who gets to play the early version of the game is like, this is Jaden Daniels is a 91. It's like, well, we'll just make him like a 76 so that people can play the game, but without leaking the numbers. But the Broncos are like the 5th worst team in the NFL, or tied with the Panthers for 4th worst, I think.
That is
better than the Commanders.
Exactly what they are. Yep. The Broncos in this beta leak are 79 overall, tied with the Panthers.
Who are the
What's
best
interesting
teams?
though is there's truth in some of these.
Okay.
So the Chiefs are number 1. The Chiefs and San Francisco are tied at 1.
Okay.
You have Baltimore right after. You have the Dolphins at 4. You have the Cowboys at 5. Lions at 6.
Maybe there
Bengals at
is more of
7. Browns at 8. So that one might be one that's thrown in there. Eagles at 9. Jets 10. In terms of bad teams, you have the Giants as the worst team overall. You have the Cardinals as the 2nd worst team. You have the Commanders as the 3rd worst team. Then Panthers, Broncos, Titans, Seahawks, Patriots. I think there's definitely
there.
some truth in this, but I think they did throw a couple of teams.
Wait till you get the real ones.
And we'll see if the Broncos are one of those teams
Save
that were
your
thrown
outrage.
off or if that's real.
I didn't buy Madden last year. I was thinking about maybe doing it this year. If the Broncos are 79 overall, tied for the 4th worst team in the game, I will not buy the game.
I love it.
Somebody leaked this morning, so who knows if it's true, that Pat is a 97, Quinn is a 95, and Bowles is an 89. And those are the 3 best players.
How is Pat not a 99? He's the 7th cornerback in NFL history to win Defensive Player of the Year.
They usually only give out 3 a year now.
MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. Like, what more does Pat have to do?
I'm wondering who would be 99s. You would guess maybe Saquon?
Mahomes, Lamar,
Josh Allen.
maybe
Coming
Allen.
off Saquon.
Saquon
Yeah.
would be.
I don't
I mean,
even think.
one of those receivers probably. Maybe not all of them, but like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Probably.
Jamar-
If those guys
Jamar
are all
Chase for
99,
sure.
if
Yeah.
those guys are all 99s, then Pat absolutely should be. I think there might be like Mahomes is a 99, Josh Allen and Lamar are 98.
If Mahomes is a 99, what the hell are we doing, Madden?
If he isn't,
If he is,
what do you mean?
he should be a 98. He just had the worst year of his career.
Yeah.
Just knock him down
I'm not.
one.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yes. Yes,
He's
exactly.
a 99. He's a
It's
99.
unbelievable.
Exactly.
Just knock him
This is
down.
blasphemy. I won't buy the game if he's a 99. How about that?
The leaks have the 99s as Lane Johnson, Myles Garrett, Saquon, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase.
Let's go. No Mahomes at 99. I love that,
Lane
Madden.
Johnson. How?
Now you gotta buy the game.
Isn't Lane Johnson like 36?
Yeah. Also very good though.
No, I know, but 99, that's just impressive.
They have
I'm just impressed.
Tom Brady would probably be a 99 at 36 years old.
Mahomes
Same
is
with
an-
Peyton.
Mahomes 95.
I love it. The disrespect
Wow.
is great.
So do you feel better about Pat then?
No.
Okay.
No,
it
he's-
didn't make you feel better.
No. But this show made me feel better.
Oh,
I
good.
had a great time rocking and rolling with you guys. We'll be back tomorrow for another show. It's going to be a fun one. We will see you then. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.